Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 3, 2, 1. I don't even know if you guys can hear me or not. So if you can, write something in the chat window so I know. And this is going to be pretty short today, maybe like a half hour or so, as I try to get everything up and running. And hopefully you can hear me telling you that. Oh, I have to agree to my own chat rules here. Okay, so what am I doing today? Today I'm working on font. Doesn't have a name yet. I usually don't name them until the very end. And then I get kind of I figure out what the feeling of the font is, and then I go hunting for names. And of course, the first few names that I choose are all always taken, which stinks. But I usually settle on one that I'm pretty happy with. So let's, I'm going to go up to the very top of the characters here. I've got a lot already done on this font. This is one that I've been working on for a few days here. And what I actually did with this one, I drew out the letters in Illustrator using the blob brush, and that is something that I haven't used a lot. So it was a fun little experiment. And what I actually did was I drew the first versions of the characters, and then I created a new layer on top, and I drew second versions of every character. And then I thought, well, shoot, now I have 4 versions of every letter. So I have all of the second versions up here, but then what I've done is I've added at the very bottom in the private use area, well, they're not in there yet, but they're going to go in there. I've added all the original letters as well, so these will all become alternates to the font. And so, let's see, I believe I have done cleanup on the F, yes, so I actually left off on the letter G. So let's do a little cleanup on this guy. Looks pretty good right now when you're just looking at the outlines. But what I'm going to do is fire it up here, and so you can see there are little red dots all around the outside of the letters. And what those are, it's telling me that it's missing points at the extrema. The extrema are the very topmost, bottommost, leftmost, and rightmost points of a curve. So as you can see on the side of the G here, this curve goes along, and it wants a point right there. That is the leftmost point of that curve. Likewise at the bottom here, there are some points down there. You can see them, but there are red dots on top. It's telling me that the points aren't exactly where it wants them. So fortunately in Font Creator, they make it real easy. I've got this button that I can press right here to optimize contours. And what that does is it puts points everywhere it wants points to be. And then now it's also going to remove a lot of extra points that it doesn't need. It's not going to clean everything up. You still have to do some manual cleanup. But this helps a little in at least starting out and getting things a little cleaner. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to get rid of as many of these extra nodes as I can and get the shape as simple as possible. So let's start at the top here. Now in Font Creator, there are 2 types of points. There are gray squares, like this guy, and then there are green circles, like this guy. If you have a point that's occurring on a curve, you want it to be a green circle. What the green circle means is that the handles are coming out exactly opposite each other, 180 degrees from each other. Now, it doesn't matter whether the handles are exactly horizontal from each other like these two guys are. These are both 180 degrees opposite, perfectly horizontal on either side of this node. But you can see right here, this one is on an angle. But these 2 points coming out of it, its 2 handles, are exactly 180 degrees across from each other. So anywhere on a curve, that's what we want. The only gray squares I want to see when I'm making a super clean font are in corners like this, where of course the handles can't be 180 degrees across from each other. They're going to be going in whatever other crazy directions. So first I'm going to even this node and its 2 handles by just aligning them all horizontally. Boom. Okay, so that node has turned green. Good. Great. I'm going to get rid of this guy. I don't think I need him. It's going to make my curve go wonky, though. I'm going to get rid of this guy, too. And then I'm going to move the handles outward. Take a look at my curve. I like that nice, smooth curve, but very few handles, very few nodes. Likewise, I'm going to even these guys out, put them all on the same line. I don't need 2 nodes here, so I'm going to delete one of them. And I don't need that node. So I'm just going to adjust. I'm using my arrow keys here. When you're using your arrow keys, if you just use the arrow key as is, you can go up, down, left, or right, 10 units of measure. If you hold down Control and do your arrow keys, it's just going to 1 unit at a time with Control. And then if you hold down Shift, it goes 100 at a time. So you can really finesse it in there. All right. So just moving some things around so they're where I like them. Getting rid of extra nodes and points as I go. And this is all just experience telling me which ones to remove, which ones to move, how to adjust, where to align. That guy's got to go right there, so I can move that over a little bit there. A lot of times I will remove all of the points I can except for the extrema. And again, those are the points that are the exact top, bottom, left, and rightmost points of curves. Those are the extrema. So I'll leave those in, and I'll try to use as few other points as possible. So I mean, I could remove this node and that handle and try to adjust everything else to get a fairly similar look. Because really, the fewer nodes you have, the fewer issues people are going to have with cutting, the cleaner things are going to print. Hello, looks like a couple people are watching. Don't know if you can hear me. If you can, please let me know in the chat window, because I do not know if my audio is going out. This is a test stream, so let me know. I'm going to remove this guy just to see what it does. Move that over there. Yeah, I kind of like that curve, how that looks. Really, a lot of this is just eyeballing it, seeing what works, seeing what feels good. All right, so now I'm going to move it up and down. Yay! Endless Time Graphics says you can hear me. Thank goodness, because I had no idea. I've been blathering for like 10 minutes here, and I don't know if anyone's actually listening. All right, so next up, now that I have my letter clean, I want to place my letter where it needs to go. So we've got our top and bottom guidelines, which are the baseline right here, and I've got my cap height here. Now in most normal fonts, you want your capital letters to be of a size that the bottom is touching the baseline and that the top is touching the cap height. And that's kind of your gauge of how big or small all of the rest of the letters should be as well. With this font, however, it's kind of weird and little and big, and as you can see from the preview up here, it is variable in size. So what I'm doing instead is I've got my X height line set right in the middle here and kind of adjusting so that the letters are centered on the X height so that they can be bouncing and big and small and all over the place. But they'll all be aligned centrally with each other, which is going to give it a nice look. And then I'm going to set my left and right side bearings. These are basically the margins that dictate the box that the letter is going to sit in. One of them is always going to sit right here at 0. And then one of them can kind of move around, and you can move the letter itself around as well. Or if you use the glyph properties here, you can just set them manually. Let's say I want 30 units of space on either side. I can just type in 30 and 30, and boom. There's this letter G, all cleaned up, nice, ready to go, sitting inside its box, evenly spaced on the top and on the bottom, and both sides. So I'm going to call G done. I'm going to move on to H. This is kind of an ugly H. It's going to take some cleaning. All right, so first off, I double click so that I can see all my nodes and handles, and I'm going to do the optimize contours a couple times to clean everything up as much as that'll do. And now it's going in by hand. So let's take a look down here in this area first. It's coming to kind of a weird pointy point, so I'm going to remove these two nodes, and I'm going to move the handles out a little bit. And move that guy down. And that gives it more of a fatter, rounder, plumper look. And if you know anything about me and my fonts, you know I like weird, fat, freaky letters because I'm a weirdo. All right, remove you. And wow, so that's like the simplest curve ever here. But I took away a point and it's giving me a little red dot. It's saying I have an extrema. What I could do is take this handle, and I'm going to do Control and my left arrow and just move that handle over one little spot. See, if it went over to the right, it's going to give me that red dot because I have a curve with an outside area to the curve. This is the rightmost point of the curve. It wants a node there. But if I move that handle back over to the left, this handle is going straight up from this point. So this point is technically the rightmost part of that curve. So I don't need a node on this curve because this is the rightmost point of this section before it then angles off at 90 degrees to go somewhere else. But I am going to add in a couple more handles here because that was just a really weird pointy. I don't like how tight the point was on that. Oh, thank you for letting me know. I bet it's, let me unplug a thing here. Yeah, okay. Thank you for letting me know about the echo, Amy. Do tell, is the echo still happening? I've unplugged a device, and I think that should, yay, good, okay. I had my webcam plugged in as well, so I think it was picking me up on the microphone that's right in front of my mouth and the microphone on the webcam and trying to do it twice. Terrible, terrible thing. All right, so back over here we go. I'm going to grab two handles and move them together. Pretty much as many points and handles as you select at any given time, and you can draw a rectangle around to select a bunch. You can then use your arrow keys to move them around. Ooh, it's like the hula. You can move those around together. All right, so by adding a couple of handles and moving them upward, I'm going to narrow these in and move these up a little more. You can change the shape of your curve. So now it's a lot more rounded and less pointy right there. All right, let's take a look right here at this area. Because we've got this outline coming straight down, but then if you look down below, it kind of kinks inward a little bit. So it doesn't feel like this is the same outline coming straight down. So what I want to do is take that node and just move it over a little bit so that this is more of a straight line connecting all the way through. Even though it doesn't connect, you want to give it that feeling to the eye that it is a full stroke there. All right, now, oh, this is ugly up here. And a little phallic, not gonna lie. Looks like it's just you watching, Amy, so. Okay, good to know. I think you're the only one watching. Nope. I think we just picked up a third person. You and me and some other person watching. Fabulous. All right. Hey, whoever you are, say hi. Tell me in chat who's watching. Oh, I think the echo. Hello, math mistress. I think the echo actually might be the microphone. Okay, so I'm using a headset with a microphone attached. And I think I'm speaking into the microphone. It's coming out the ear holes of the headphones and going back into the microphone again. That's no big. I'm going to use a different microphone in the future. This was just one that I had at the ready. Math Mistress, who are you? There's only 3 of us in here. It's you and me and Amy. So you can tell me in the chat. All right, I've gotten rid of, there was that weird kink up there. I got rid of that. I'm going to move this over, and oh, look at that. Okay, so this line is coming down here. It hits the crossbar, and then you'd expect it to be coming out of the crossbar like here, but it's not. It's over here. So what I want to do is scooch this guy over just a little bit, and that makes it fit a lot better. Going down in there. I'm going to get rid of you too. Right there. Gone. Mary Carol, hello. Welcome to the test stream where we're figuring out that I have an echo in my audio, but I can be heard. And I'm trying to make this H look a little less phallic. Alright, I'm going to line these points up there. And I'm going to move the whole guy up a little bit. He's kind of a weird H, but he's the alternate, so he can stick with being kind of weird. Alright, moving on to the I. Who knew it would take... You know what? When I'm doing this by myself and not talking through it, I can do like a letter every minute or two. And here I've done 2 letters in 20 minutes. So I guess streaming is not going to be a 100% of the time thing, or else I'd never get anything done. All right, letter I. I've got my red dots, got to clear those out. It means I don't have points in the right place. So optimize contours, and boom, Font Creator puts points on the extrema where they need to go. Mary Carol, in case you're not aware, extrema are the points that are on the very leftmost, rightmost, topmost, and bottommost points of a curve. So for example, this curve along here on the side of this letter I, this point right here where it put this node is the very leftmost part of that curve. Not every font has points at the extrema, but every font creation program wants to have points at all of the extrema. So I always put them there because I'm a nerd and a dork and a geek. All right, so it has put a point at the extrema here. However, I've got... right? Yes, multitasking and talking. This is very weird. At least the cat has stopped wondering why on earth I'm talking if I'm not talking to her. And she has gone off to have a little nap. So, okay, so I've got gray square nodes here, and I want not 2 gray square nodes. I'm going to get rid of them, so I'm down to 1. But I also want a green, so I'm going to click this little guy to align these points all on the same horizontal plane, and there, my node goes green. So I know that my handles are coming out exactly 180 degrees opposite of each other. And that's going to make the smoothest curve. Speaking of unsmooth curves, look at that. It goes like... So that means I need to adjust my handles a little bit. I'm going to move that one up and that one over, and that is so much smoother. Yep, like it. I'm going to move these guys down a little bit. Really, this is all font construction is. If you're super anal about it like me, it's just moving little things here and there and nudging and poking and prodding, and it's probably really boring for a lot of people, but it's really soothing in a way too. Oh, undo, undo, undo. I sure use my undo a lot too. All right, no, I don't like this curve here. What can I do to make that a little better? I'm going to add another handle so that this node gets a handle. I'm going to move that node up a little bit and move its handle up a little bit just to smooth things out a splash. Let's move you over and you down. I still feel like it's a little flat right through there. So I'm going to go back up with this one. And yeah, that's rounded it out a little bit. Just tiny little nudges on everything. Do I do any font cleanup in AI before uploading to Font Creator? Yes, especially if I'm bringing something in from Procreate and live tracing it in Illustrator, then yes, I'll do, I have some very specific live trace settings that I've settled on in Illustrator that I like the best. But then I will also use, what is it, Vector Scribe? Is that the thing? I think that's the thing, Vector Scribe, which I actually have Illustrator version 2019 still loaded up because my old Vector Scribe works on that, and it doesn't work on the new 2020. And Vector Scribe actually has a setting where it will put points on the extrema for you. I think it calls it something else, but it will put those points in place. Now, something extra weird also, though, is Adobe Illustrator works in PostScript curves, which, let me use this letter I. I'm going to copy and paste, make a second copy of the I, and I'm going to convert it over to convert to CFF outlines to show you the difference in the types of curves. So I construct in TrueType curves, which doesn't necessarily mean it will be a TrueType font. It's just the type of curves that it uses, and really what it comes down to is how the handles work. So if you can see on the one on the left here, this is the TrueType curves. Every handle connects. You're going to see the little wee light connector lines. So every handle will be connected on both sides to either a node or another handle, and they all have the little lines connecting them. However, on this one over here, which has the postscript curves, also called CFF curves, the handles come out and then just end. So some people like one type of curves. Some people like the other type of curves. There's no real right way to do things. I've used both types, and I've just found that I'm much more comfortable with true type curves. For some reason, I like the way the handles play when they connect to both. I just like those curves a little bit better. There's no right or wrong. And some programs will only construct in one style or the other of curves. But I find that in these postscript curves, the CFF curves with the separated handles, because you're going to have a handle coming out of this node, and then this next node over, you've got its own little handle there too. I just feel like it's a lot of extra fiddling, because instead of just moving the one handle between the 2 points, you have to move this guy and then this guy and then, oh, maybe this guy a little more and this guy a little more. And it's really, really, really fiddly. So the big problem for me is Illustrator only works in this type of curve, the postscript curves. So when I bring the letters in from Illustrator, they can be funky. They can have a lot of extra nodes, a lot of extra points. Like, I mean, look at how many points and handles there are on this one as opposed to this one. And I find that also, anytime you convert from one type of curve to another type of curve, even inside your font creation program, it's going to add a ton more handles and nodes. It just is. So, I mean, if I cleaned this guy up and got rid of a bunch of the extra points, it's going to flatten these out really weird, and it's going to be extra time to fix. But then if I took this guy and duplicated it again and then converted it back to true type curves, it's again going to add a few extra handles, and it's going to add extra nodes. So anytime you convert back and forth, there's more cleanup to be done. So you always kind of want to make sure that you're working in the type of curves you want to work in from the get-go. When I create a new font in Font Creator, I don't actually, I don't go to File, New, and create a new document. What I do is I bring in a blank font that I've already made. I'm going to grab it off screen here. Let me shut down the eye here. And I'm going to bring in my empty. And so this one is already set up with true type curves that I like. And it also starts out with 527 glyphs in it already. This has, let me shut this down. So this document, this blank font file, has spaces for the full basic Latin, Latin 1, most of Latin A, a lot of Latin B, a lot of diacritical marks, a lot of punctuation, miscellaneous symbols, some dingbats, some shapes, arrows, up, down, left, right. I like including those because people like to use arrows a lot. So basically, I just have preloaded in the 500 and some characters that I am almost always going to use in a font. And that way I don't have to remember, because when you create a new font file, it's only going to give you 235. And I want 300 more than that. So instead of having to remember, what are the 300 other characters that I know that I want to include in there, I have them all already in this guy. And then I just rename it right off the bat, save it to another folder, and it's ready to go. That's what I did with this guy. And 3 eyes. It's almost 4 eyes. What? Ha. All right, let's get rid of you, and we're going to get rid of you, and you were cleaned up here. So I'm going to balance you that way, and then let's say 20 points of space on either side. These are just rough measurements for now as I'm going through cleanup, and then when I get back into it, when I start working on spacing, then I can really finesse. Because see, let's look at a little preview here. There's some things like this right here that's too tight. That's too tight there. There's some places like this F and O, definitely going to need some space adjustments there. Boy, that L is close to everybody. So yeah, a lot of adjustments need to be made. All right. Well, I think, you know what? I thought I would go about a half an hour here, so I am going to bring this to a close. If anyone has any questions before I sign off, throw them at me in the chat, and I'll clean up this letter J while I see if anyone has questions. There is a little bit of a delay between me saying things and what you guys hear, so... Let's see. Oh, question coming in from Learning More. How do you like Font Creator? I love it. So I have used, I made my very first fonts in Font Creator 1,000 years ago. I think it was 2002. I made my first font ever. And it was fun, but it took a long time. And the software didn't dazzle me at that time. What, almost 20 years ago. And then back around like 2011, I tried it again, and it still didn't catch me. So this last time that I started doing, the third time I started making fonts, it was 2015, and I tried out Font Forge first because it was free, and I just wasn't sure. And I enjoyed it more than I had before. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get something to pay for. Kathy on the Beach, the first font ever, or the first font that I made in this current run. The first one I made in 2015, the current run, is called Trawl, Trawll. It is available on missymeyer.com in the free fonts section. So, made one with Font Forge, hated it, because Font Forge being open source, it's just a steep learning curve. So I got a program called Type 3.2. It was about $50. And I made fonts with that for about 6 to 8 months, I'm going to say. But Pinsetter was made in Type 3.2. Allspice was made in Type 3.2. So it's a really good program. I liked it a lot, but it just didn't suit all my needs. And I knew that Font Creator had grown, so I did the demo, and I ended up loving it. It does everything I want to do, and it was easy to learn how to do everything I wanted to do, which I think is really important too. Good table of font editors showing by the time they were last updated. Ooh, yes, I'll check that out and take a look at that. I test drove, when I got Type 3.2, I test drove Type Tool, which was also a $50 program, and I just liked the pen tool a little bit more on Type 3.2. But they were both great programs. When I moved up to Font Creator here, I actually tested out Fontographer and Font Lab as well. And of those three, even though Font Creator was the cheapest of the three, it was the one I felt most comfortable working in, and I think that's the most important thing, that you find the one that you're comfortable with. Colette Barton asked how to import from Procreate. I will definitely I'll include that in a future stream. I'm pretty much going to be doing these streams, I think, in the mornings, just to give us all a little something to do while we're cooped up in our houses. But basically, I will save to JPEG out of Procreate, I will bring that JPEG into Illustrator and use Live Trace. And I've got some settings dialed in for Live Trace that I really like, that I think work well for me. So that's how I get to vector. And then once I have everything in vector, then I can bring it here into Font Creator to use. Okay, any other questions, anyone? I'm going to finish this J. I got sidetracked. I was talking and moving my hands, and of course none of you can see any of that, but it was exciting for me, even though it was boring for you to watch. Move that point up there, and this one over, and now I think that curve's a little too steep. That looks pretty good. Get rid of you, you're not needed, but it's kind of a little bit of a bulge there. Thank you, you too. Oh man, I just wish we could find toilet paper somewhere. I mean, we have a few rolls. We're not going to run out immediately, but I wish we'd gotten some before the craziness started. All right, move you over there, and you up there, and you down, and you over just a little bit. It's sometimes a game to try to find a way to keep the handwritten feel, but use as few points as possible. I'm going to go you, the whole tip of the J, over just a little bit. And now that is a smooth rounded curve there, but then it gets a little steep right there on the inside of the J. So we're going to move this whole affair down, and this over a little bit, and this down a little bit. That's a little better. My arrow keys definitely get a workout on this. All right, I like that. That's good. All right, align you pretty much upsy downsy, and then let's go 30 points on each side for the side bearings. And I'm going to call that J good. And oh, I've done 3 letters. Control S. Save. Most important thing. Save all the time. That way, if you lose anything, you've only lost what you've done on a couple of letters. All right, I'm going to sign off then. Thank you for taking part in this test, and I will make some changes by tomorrow morning, and hopefully we'll do this again tomorrow morning. Peace out, friends.